The Heartland Hoops Classic is one of the biggest basketball tournaments in Nebraska, and this is how we pulled off the broadcast. Long before this broadcast rolls around, we've already reviewed what we did last year, we've had ideas of what we can do better, and we've been on the lookout for technology that can help us execute on those ideas. This year we added the JVC KM IP12S8 Pro. This is an all-in-one unit put together by JVC. It can handle video up to 4K 60, and it can run instant replay on up to 8 cameras simultaneously. The JVC KM IP12S8 Pro is a computer running the software vMix, and we have the Pro version, which allows us to do the 8 channels of instant replay. But the inside of the computer is really souped up. We've got the NVIDIA 4070 Super. We have a Core i9 12900K. We have 1.5 terabytes of internal storage that is SSD, which means it's really great at the super fast read and write speeds. And there's even liquid cooling on this machine because it's meant to spend a lot of its time in a server surrounded by other machines that are really hot. So what we really find the liquid cooling to be beneficial is when we've taken it outside to do outdoor events in the 80+ degree weather, that liquid cooling does do the job when you're in a warm press box and keeps it really nice and cool. So the big benefit to having Thursday and Friday to kind of prepare for the Saturday broadcast was that Thursday was the day we spent in the office setting everything up, testing all of our workflows, because Friday was going to be the day we'd take all the equipment and actually set it up in the venue. So the equipment got set up at least twice in its entirety, but it's nice to run all those checks of what you think will work in the office. That way you can ensure that when you get to the venue on Friday, they actually do work, and then when you get to the broadcast on Saturday, you know you've got it down. We've been doing the Heartland Hoops Classic for a number of years now, and besides some equipment changing our setup, the layout of how we've had ourselves set up has really stayed the same over those years. And this year, I don't know why, but some part of me wanted to see if we could change that. And so we did. In previous years, we've had the control room, per se, the side with all the computers, the director, producer, replay. We've always had that on the left of the 2 platforms that we're given, as well as one of our cameras. And then we've always put the announcers on the right side. I don't know if there ever was a reason. It was just kind of how we drew it up. From the layout that we had, we were pulling internet from the right side. And so our internet was going to get to the right platform first, get plugged into a network switch, and then a feed or a couple lines would get sent over to the other side. When it comes to trying to set up, the less cables you have to run, the better. The simpler it is, the better. So I was like, what if we switched it around? I said, is there any rhyme or reason that we are doing this a certain way? Nope, we just kind of have always done it like that. We switched sides, so our control room was on the right side of those platforms, our announcers were on the left. Didn't really notice a difference in functionality other than we only had to run one Ethernet cable to the other side, and there wasn't a network switch over there, so all of the networking could get done on the side with all the computers, which is where it needed to be. Speaking of networking, the whole thing kind of went down, so that's another story for later in the video. So when me and Eric were having the discussion about where we should set up our crews, we actually recorded part of that conversation. So let's roll that now. Yes, I keep a whiteboard at my desk because there's a lot of times I'm drawing stuff out, and so this is one of them. So let's say we have our basketball court, draw a couple 3-point lines. This is an arena. So bleachers, bleachers, bleachers. We're set up here. And actually this diagram is already inaccurate because I need to draw a line halfway through and put a walkway. So our crew gets split up onto 2 platforms. So platform 1 and platform 2. Platform 1 is where all of our technical director sits. So director, replay, and producer, as well as our ISO cam. So we have P for producer, technical director, replay, and our ISO cam, all in order. Then we have our main cam, we have our play-by-play, and our color announcer on the other platform. So this is where I go. What we've done in the past is we've ran an XLR cable through a cable channel, so it's properly protected as a cable, but we just have to run it all the way across. So we ran our 2 headsets over into a soundboard, but then we've had to run a soundboard return back to the announcers. So my thought is, could we make this simpler? Could we keep the soundboard over here, transmit that audio still through another cable into a smaller soundboard that then is a USB into our final software? I think we can. I wonder if we should. So now it's time to ask Eric. So you know how in previous years for running announcer audio, we have ran XLR cables all the way across and a 1/4 inch back because we have to get headphone return?
Right.
What if we left the 1204 there and we did a mix there and we ran an XLR cable back to a small audio interface to make it digital for Wirecast? Save on a length of run of cables. Now that does put more emphasis on the audio people who are talking to manage what the audio sounds like, but at least for the games you're doing, that's not a big deal, and that's how most of our other setups are anyway.
Sure. You know, we can also flip these tables. Like there's nothing in our rulebook that says producer TD is here and announcers are here. Like we could.
Well, but regardless of whether we flip them, we've got them on 2 separate tables.
Yeah.
So the idea is we're going to probably have to send a cord through here regardless.
Yes.
Let's send 1 instead of 3.
Sure.
Right? Instead of trying to string along XLR over to here and then 1/4 inch back to a headphone amp, let's just send 1 and let them deal with it. And there's plenty of table space over there.
Yeah. Always plenty of table space when there's only 2 people sitting there.
Right. If you like that idea, I say we try it.
Okay. We need to talk about TalkBack.
Yes.
That is very handy.
Okay, so we're gonna put the Yamaha on the other side.
That's a different part of the video. Yeah, let's talk through that.
Okay. Thought we had an idea. We still do though. Like the idea of
cutting down the number of cables going between.
Yeah.
That's the
There needs to be a soundboard on the announcer side. So to break down what was just said for some of the part that was not directly presenting to you guys. We have a way to do talkback for the producer to the announcer that involves 2 soundboards. And not the main mix features, but the auxiliary mix. And so we've had this set up, we've done it last couple years. Super easy to do once you get all the wires in the right place. What it does mean is we're not just taking the Behringer soundboard, we're also taking the Yamaha MG12 soundboard or whatever it is that we have for Yamaha. Once things had been decided, it was finally time to basically make a mock setup. So at the venue, at the Heartland Event Center, we've got platforms, couldn't really mock that up, didn't really need to, but we knew for sure that we'd have access to 2 8-foot tables. Luckily, we had 2 8-foot tables in the office. So that's what we grabbed. We set up, we cleared some space, we made the office wide open, and we began to set up the gear the way that we thought we were gonna set up the gear. And specifically, we started to work on an aspect of our broadcasts that is not noticeable to the viewers online, but on the back end of the production, it is really helpful, really useful. We had never really figured out an efficient way to do it, and I think we finally cracked the code this year. I'm of course talking about our talkback system. If you follow me on X, formerly Twitter, I put out a post. I think we finally figured out how to get talkback done, and I made the comment again, it's surprising that we could spend so much time dedicating ourselves to solving a problem that at the end of the day, viewers wouldn't really notice, right? They're not going to hear the talkback. That's the point of the talkback. It's to get layered behind and so that the announcers can still hear it, but it doesn't go out over the program audio. And so our solution was really kind of fun and unique. We used 2 different soundboards, and the reason that we needed 2 soundboards is because we needed access to a few different auxiliary mixes. And because of the way that our wireless communication system works, we have the Solidcom M1 from Heartland. It has a 4-wire connection, which allows us to run an XLR cable out and connect to an external soundboard. So our director and producer had broadcast headsets, not going out to the broadcast, but to communicate with the crew. And then the crew was able to hear them from that. But we needed the director to not have the ability to talk back to the announcers. We needed the producer, who was in charge of when we were taking a break, what graphics we were showing. We needed that person to have the ability to tell the announcers, hey, we're going to break. And so we had to set it up. We used an auxiliary mix, we used a group mix, and we used the main mix on our Yamaha soundboard. The announcers had a soundboard on their side, and they were in charge of mixing their master audio. So they had play-by-play and color headsets, and they had the crowd microphone that they were in charge of adjusting the EQ, adjusting gain, compression, setting the levels, making sure everything was balanced. Got sent over to the Yamaha, and the Yamaha basically said, okay, input 1, you're gonna be the stereo out. You're gonna be the main mix out. And you're gonna be the only input that goes into that main mix out. And then we're gonna take the USB connector, which is the USB connector for the main mix out, and we're gonna connect you to the computer running Wirecast. What that allowed us to do was then take the output of the computer of Wirecast, run it back into the soundboard via USB, and then we could have a little volume for the director and producer to be able to hear what the announcers were saying and to hear our commercials. Then we had to get our talkback system actually set up so that it was a press to talk and not a spinning of a knob. So we have a rules A-B switch, and so when you press the button down, it'll send it out the A channel, and if you don't, it'll stay in the B channel. Well, we didn't need anything in the B channel, but we wanted to be able to just, hey, when we need to send a signal over, we send it over. When we don't, we don't. And so that's how we set it up. We ran our auxiliary 1 out, and we had to convert 1/4 inch to XLR, hooked that in, ran an XLR cable between the two setups, and then in the Behringer soundboard that we had for the announcers, we basically put it on an alternate channel, which is like the group channels. It's just 2 different names. That way, it didn't come back through the announcers' main mix that they were sending us, but they could still hear it in their headphones. It also allowed, during commercial breaks or during halftime, it allowed our producer to have a conversation with the announcers. Friday morning rolled around, and it was time for 2 things. 1, get breakfast in town. 2, pack all the gear up into the Striv vehicle, affectionately known as Turbo, and drive to Grand Island to get set up. I actually took a really cool time lapse, I think, of us loading in Turbo, and once all the gear is in there, you can see it's packed to the top. When I say we bring everything, we brought everything. Our office was empty besides the desks and 1 or 2 computers that, because we have the new systems, we didn't need anymore. We get to the event center, they roll up the big doors to marshal us in, and they finally close the doors behind us, and we're there. Time to unpack, find the service elevator, get everything up to the upper level. Since Eric was going to be taking a majority of the play-by-play and announcer stuff responsibility on Saturday, I said, Eric, why don't you set up our audio? I also had him run our networking cable and an SDI cable from our far camera to get all the way in. And I said, during that time, I'll work on setting up computers and cameras. Ryan Smith from GICC was there, so he also helped us set up cameras. And so here are a few clips that I got from setting up. Okay, mid setup update, we have 2 computers, both on running, NDI working. We have our curtains, no chairs, so I'm using rigid to sit on. We've got crew audio. We've got a camera pointed at the score or the time. I'm gonna set up a booth cam up, where is it at? That corner right there, kind of like in the truck view. Second camera's getting set up, and then Eric has most of the announcer audio already ran and set up. So We're almost there. It is 12:19. This is going how we thought it was going to go. So, and we've been test streaming, haven't dropped a frame, and it all looks smooth. So all things considered, pretty good. Show you a look at the court here. That's our Marshall camera pointed up at the big board. And then what I've actually done, if I show you, is we've put it right there, and then we've desaturated it. The reason we desaturate it is so that it just shows up as white for the light and black as the background, so looks a little bit better than it could. So that is where we're at right now. Okay, a little more time has passed. We've got more things set up. We actually have 2 cameras, 1 and 2. We also have our crowd shot, which I think I made a statement that I was gonna set up. It's now set up. This is my program confidence monitor, so it helps me just be completely sure what's going out program, even though it's exactly the same as this screen. You can never be too safe when it comes to making sure you know what you're sending out on the broadcast. And so that's one of the reasons that's done. Wirecast, soundboard, all that stuff's good. Got that set up. Camera's good. We're attaching a swit to the floor camera. You can look at cables, a large mess down here. So we do the best we can, but there's obviously a lot of stuff. We have crew communications and everything else all plugged in. A lot of stuff, but it's needed to put on this super good looking giant broadcast. Right, Eric?
Huge, massive.
We're currently, to test our announcer headsets, playing Spotify? Apple Music.
Spotify.
Spotify. Eric.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for anything but Spotify. And then on the back of our platforms are just all of our cases. But actually, Eric, you know what I'm going to go out on a limb here and say? This year's setup is cleaner, more managed than last year's. We do need the bridge across the...
Yeah, we might just...
Or since it's only 3 cables, we could get it. Despite thinking I brought every cable that we had in the office, there were still a couple cables that we were missing. We managed to still get everything hooked up in a way that was going to work for Saturday. We did a test. We streamed on their network for an hour and a half. We had Taylor check in from home and be like, hey, how does it look? And he's like, looks great. And so we were all super excited. We'd figured out how to get it to look good. We had everything set up. Everything that we wanted to do was done. And it was about 3 o'clock, and I told Eric, hey, we didn't really take a break for lunch. So the next mission was find a little food and then get back and try to rest up, get as much rest as we can, because waking up, leaving at 6:30 in the morning and not getting back till probably 11:30 at night. So a really long production day, but a lot of good basketball, so that usually helps the day move a lot quicker. Game day here, Heartland Event Center. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Wirecast, sound, whole same setup. Had a few technical difficulties today that had to work through, so was not the ideal start to the day. Had a couple games. We couldn't get internet for whatever reason. Knock on wood. I mean, it's a plastic table, but this is what I got. We went just fine that last game, so hopefully this next one is good too. We've got Miller North is up and Wasatch Academy, so should be a really good game. Some top teams. Been great games all day. I just wish the network would work. I think we have figured out something to do with maybe running the NDI video. We were trying to run too much NDI and try to get the internet. Also, their internet was just bad, so there's a combination of a lot of things. So we're slowly figuring out. But we got Mike and Eric on the call for this one. We got curtains all set up, so not much has changed since I did the walkthrough. But yeah, we're just rolling. A lot of energy drinks. The Red Bulls are already gone, and we got 2 to go.
We mentioned Quinn and Layton, Ryan and Hinkle, and of course Hoosier manning us, manning the Hoosier had like triple duty today.
Yeah.
For some
Big
different
day.
stuff. And then Mike, well, this has been kind of something that, I don't know, for like 5 years now we've done this.
Couldn't do it last year.
Couldn't do it last year because you had the Husker thing going.
Yeah, Nebraska game.
But otherwise, this has become a little staple of it. I like the little break.
I need to be
appreciate it,
better.
man.
I need to be better, right? That's okay. I'm feeling a little tired today. That's my fault. I said one of the breaks. I said, man, I need to get some energy here. So, that's my fault.
Drive home safe. That's what we. That's the
About
biggest thing.
2.5 hours. But
this is the biggest thing we need from you.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone for watching us here today. And as we send you out, we say thanks for watching us on Striv TV, and we'll say good night from Grand Island.
We watched the last of the replay clips go for highlights today. 7 games, network issue. Hinkle's having fun. Ryan's making it a Striv Education video. By the way, had both these guys on Educator Conversation, so go check it out. Hinkle's was in season 2. Ryan was like the tail end of season 1. So really good stuff. Really great teachers that want to help their students. Network issues happen. Stuff happens during a broadcast. How do you rebound? How do you come back? How do you find the next solution that actually works? That was the story of today. How can we get something to at least try to go out? How can we troubleshoot what we've got going on? What is the actual core issue? Who do we need to talk to? And you just keep going until you get to the end of the road and you either exhaust all your options or you figure it out, right? And fortunately today was a day of figuring it out. Wish it didn't take as long as it did, but we got it done. And we got the games out, the ones that we could. And the ones that we couldn't, nobody could see it. So we got 30 seconds left to replays. And then we're going to go put a graphic up. We're going to turn everything off. And we're going to start packing up. And we're going to call it a night. It's 9:31. We'll see how quickly we get all packed up. Saturday. What a day. I don't know how much you guys know about live internet streams. But if you don't have internet, you can't stream. We were kind of stuck in limbo. I was directing and doing replay for those first couple games, but I said, hey, I'm gonna need someone to jump in for me while I go figure out this internet issue, see if it's anything on our end. So I eventually ended up talking to venue staff, and basically took us a game and a half to figure it out, because I was the one on site who, I guess, had the most network knowledge. I was the one that got to unplug and replug in the routers. Normally would take everyone's internet away, but nobody had internet to begin with. And once I did that, everything was back up, and we did the last 3 games without an issue. You can always have something planned out so much, like, this is what we're gonna do, and then you get there and it's like, oh, we can't do this. I was gonna be the director for all 7 games. I directed 5 of the 7, which is still a lot, but just not my plan. But we got things fixed, and we got internet, and we were able to stream the last 3 games. And so, moral of the story, not everything goes to plan. The JVC unit worked perfectly. No complaints from me at all. As long as we had internet, it put the stream out. It worked super great to switch our cameras. Everything looked super high quality, super smooth. I mean, just, it never once glitched through all 7 games of handling our, I think we had like 6 cameras plus some overlays. We had our replay stinger transitions to go over the top to kind of transition and signify that we were doing a replay. Our announcer audio sounded great. Our talkback worked all day. The only thing that ever went wrong was the internet. And unfortunately, in the list of things working and the stream getting out, the internet is like that last piece. If that isn't working, everything else can be working, but you're not getting past. It's always such a great event, and really what it does is it helps us figure out our setup leading into state basketball. So we've got a couple events that kind of go in order that really allows us to actually test these things in action. So we do the Crossroads Conference Basketball Tournament, which we don't break out the huge setup for, but we partner with the Rural Radio Association. They provide the announcers from 104.9 Max Country, and so we don't have to worry about announcers. We just have to worry about 2 or 3 camera people, and we wanted to do replays, so I tested out, using the JVC as the all-in-one, using it to stream, operating both replay and directing myself, getting our cameras, making sure they work, what cables do we have to have. So we kind of had proof of concept at that event. Then you go into Heartland Hoops. Hey, we're doing our big setup for the first time. Does this work? Yes. That is now the setup that we're gonna take to girls' day basketball and to boys' day basketball. We're rolling right along with our productions. It's crunch time. And so as long as the internet works, fingers crossed, knock on wood here, our girls' day basketball broadcasts, our boys' day basketball broadcasts are gonna be some of the best we've ever done, thanks to the JVC KMIP 12S8 Pro. I mean, that is the unit, that is the brains that control all of it. Hopefully that was not a fire hose of information, but it's really fun to kind of open up the doors and let you guys see behind the scenes of what we're doing. Really just trying to open the doors to, hey, this is technically how things are ran, our HDMI cables, our SDI, our Ethernet. And the thing I always go back to is this setup that we have now was built up piece by piece. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you want to learn how we can help you level up your broadcast, check out our free course in our Future Ready Educators community. It really explains how to go step by step, and honestly, it follows the process that we ourselves followed. So we've done it. We've seen, 50 plus other schools do it. This is the way that it works. And so if you want to accelerate your growth, please check it out. It's a free course. It's a free community. Get in there. Learn from our educators that we have gathered in one place. There's a lot of knowledge, and it's a really fun place to be. And stay tuned for the next video.